Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Innovation Unplugged. I'm Houston Blackwood, Workforce Director for the Innovation Center. In studio with me is Kailah, Dozer, Director for Marketing and Corporate Partnerships. Joining us by Zoom today is Kerry Wright. He serves as the Dean of Workforce Development and Skills Training at Northeast Alabama Community College. How are you, Kerry?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me on your podcast. I think this is a great idea to help spread the word of workforce development.
Well, certainly we think it's a good idea too. This idea came one day about a year ago, maybe more. We were driving in the car, all four of us, Julie, Brandy, Kailah, myself, and we're like, hey, let's do a podcast. And then before we got where we were going, it was like, okay, we had a design, we had a name, and we had a plan. And we called the folks at Seed Creative, and they're like, yeah, no problem. We do that all the time.
I think we're on episode 38 at this point. So It's been a fun ride.
Yeah, it's literally making it up as we go. But it's our mission before the end of the year to get all the colleges on. And so, and it's honestly, it's kind of a tough job because you guys are busy, and it seems like you guys are getting busier all the time. And off air, you were talking about your office being dismantled. So just give us a quick rundown of, before we get into why your office is dismantled and where you're headed, tell us about Kerry Wright, where he came from, how he got to be Dean of Workforce Development at Northeast.
Okay, well, thank you again for having me on the show. I love to tell my story because it's a little bit different. I like many other people in the mid '80s, had an option: go to college or search for a job. At that point in time, industry was leaving our area in North Alabama and southeastern, South Middle Tennessee, and the options were limited then. So I was fortunate enough to have a community college right close to home, and I grew up from about 15 miles from where I'm sitting today.
Oh, cool.
So that was the natural next step. And when I decided, I wanted to pursue a pathway in agribusiness. So I never was pointed to be a teacher. And as a matter of fact, teaching was really the only thing that I didn't want to do. I didn't think that was for me. So I went on and got a degree in agribusiness, graduated in 1990 to a very slow job market, even with a degree. We were headed into some rough economic times. So fortunately, I also had a little bit of a backup plan that I didn't really know it at the time, but I grew up, like most everyone else in rural Alabama. I grew up, we farmed a little. We did just about everything we had to do to make ends meet as a family. And my daddy, he had got to learning how to do collision repair. And it's kind of a funny story. The instructor at the Ernest Pruitt Center of Technology at that time, it was Jackson County Technical School, he was our neighbor. So my dad knew him his entire life. He started learning how to do collision repair. Well, long story short, he opened up a little body shop just part-time and threw me into it when I was, middle school, high school age. So I learned how to do collision repair coming up through high school. Well, fast forward to getting a college degree and no job, I ended up coming back home and I ended up opening up a body shop and spent 10 years in the collision repair business. And one day, my wife, who was an elementary teacher, came home and she said, have you ever thought about being an ag teacher? And I said, well, not really. And kind of dropped it at that.
Don't want
to. Didn't really want to. Wasn't my. But I got to thinking about it, and I thought, well, maybe I'll try that. There was an opening posted. Well, I go and speak with the principal at North Sun Mountain High School in Higdon, and I talked to her, and she told me, she said, I've already actually recommended someone for that job, but thank you for coming. So in a year's time, I got to thinking about that. And I thought, well, that may be something that I'd be interested in doing. And lo and behold, the following fall of 1999, that same position came open again, and I was fortunate enough to have been able to get that job. And it was not without, some contingencies. Like I mentioned, I didn't really want to be a teacher, so I didn't have a teaching certificate. So I was hired on the premise that I would get teaching certificate within a 2-year period of time. And fortunately, I was able to do that. And once I got into it, I was hired as an ag teacher. And, I started immediately just teaching, the things that I knew. And, I grew up, on the farm, working on cars, carpentry, all those things that we used to do back when I was a kid. I started teaching kids how to do that. And I just by, I guess, grace of God and good fortune, I was able to work my way into an administrative role that put me as the career tech director in Jackson County Schools. And from there, built a relationship with Northeast and Mike Kinnemer. Y'all probably remember Mike. He was the dean here. We kind of started that dual enrollment journey together when I was still in Jackson County. And one day an opportunity came to come up here and work with Mike and Dr. Campbell and workforce development. And I guess I was in the right place at the right time and get to just kind of share my story and my passion for the skilled trades, because I ended up making a living with my hands for 10 years after I had earned a degree. And what I try to convey to students is that you can do both. You don't really have to choose one or the other. You can do both of them. And as long as you work hard and try to do things the right way, sometimes good fortune comes your way, whether you're looking for it or not. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. And with the job comes a lot of responsibility, but I love coming to work every day because the things that we do get to touch lives of those young people and older adults who need it. So that's what makes me wake up every morning, is the thought of being able to be in the pathway of someone that needs something that I can direct them to.
Yeah, you never know what that kid that walks into your office is looking for, that calls on the phone. I've had the unique pleasure of working with a lot of Jackson County students when I was at a different college, and that college had a line worker program. And because of the recruiting for that, we went a lot to talk about the line worker program. And but so then when those students would come to that course, I mean, you talk to them and you hear their backgrounds, and much like yours, they realize that a little bit of hard work and just a little bit of training, they can have an incredible life. And these kids would go on to work for Alabama Power, TVA. Some of them making close to $100,000 after 2 or 3 years. Overtime and all that. And so you just never know what that conversation is going to look like for a kid. It just doesn't know.
And how your story, I literally wrote down patience on my notepad, just because it seems as though you had a plan maybe, but was just open to change, and how just those paths have opened up. And I feel like a lot of the students and participants that I hear that come into the programs are just looking for something different or something better. And so your story is a testament of just being open to that and walking through, and even your wife planting that seed, right? You're like, well, maybe that could be an option. And it wasn't at that time, and that's okay. But a lot of the individuals I think that you're coming in contact with on a daily basis can learn from your story too. So thank you for sharing that on air, because sometimes you don't have an opportunity to share your story every time. So thank you.
What's it been like, Kerry? We'll transition swiftly. What's it been like when you were doing all the things workforce at Northeast, and then the Innovation Center came along almost 4 years ago now, and then Skills for Success became the brand that came out of that, and here we go saying, hey, Northeast, why don't you run these courses? What do you think? What does it take to do that up here? What was that like for you? And before you answer, let me cut you off and just say, whatever you want to say it. Like we have thick skin, because it's a different experience at every campus, and every culture is different. So we want to hear the truth, because it's entertaining, and it's also helpful. So don't hold back. You can tell us exactly what you think and how it went, and so because I want to know the truth.
Well, you and I go back, and you may not remember this. It may not have impacted you, but you were one of the first people that I met when I started here. It was
Uh-huh.
at a meeting in Montgomery at the Workforce Solutions. You were one of the first people that came up and introduced yourself to me. So, we go way back, and when the Innovation Center idea, came about, we had the traveling road show that was coming out and promoting
Yep.
this concept. And I guess I was on a learning curve because I come in and I see what Workforce Solutions was about, and, touching industry through some non-credit training, and of course, we're post-secondary community college, and we've got the credit programs that we're promoting heavily, and they're very pointed toward specific careers. So when this thing really started coming together and was becoming a reality, I kind of thought, this I thought first it may be a little bit too good to be true, because there was a really good story that was going along that we're going to offer all this training and it's not going to cost anybody anything. And I'm thinking, okay, that's optimistic. But after we got to going, I guess skeptical to start with, and you and I had a lot of conversations, and I asked a lot of questions
Mhm.
because I didn't really see how the pieces were going to fall together. But once it's come into play, I see how that concept is reaching a lot of people that were probably otherwise unreachable through the traditional community college process. We're touching those lives of people that were, for whatever reason, hesitant to take that step into a post-secondary program, but now we're getting a chance to introduce them to a variety of career fields. And I'm not sure how every other college does it, but I know with Northeast, we take that and we tell them that's step one. And, we encourage them to take a step two, whether it be, finding a job where you can be, gainfully employed and paying taxes, or do you want to take another step and look into how this degree program can continue to propel you forward? So, I'm seeing it as something that is, I think that there's enough time gone by now that everyone is seeing that there is some meat to this concept. It's not just talk anymore, because the action is there backing it up. So, I was a little bit slow to take that first step because of the uncertainty of what's it going to do to the programs we have in place now. The CDL program was the first one that we went into the Innovation Center with.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't really sure how that was going to, impact us moving forward, but it's been a very positive thing. We've been able to, we went from one truck and one instructor. We've got two trucks and two instructors, and we're trying to find a third one, right now. So I see that, that has been a huge benefit for a lot of people that, may have not otherwise had access to some of this training.
That's for sure, and that's the goal. I think it's fair to say that none of us really knew. Like the chancellor had the vision. He was like, "Hey, y'all go do this. Figure out how it works." And so we had an idea, but you guys, by asking all those questions, Kerry, that's what has made it great. And even the ones like, "Nope, I don't think it'll work that way," and ask a few more questions, then we come back to a solution that works for you, because you guys had a good model for all the stuff you were doing. Things were running, classes were filling up, and you took a chance on us, to the point where I think you're about to, or you already have taken over the regional, for your service area, the school bus training for your school systems. What was that process like? Because you had never done school bus training before this whole thing came along, right?
Well, no, we had not done any bus driver training at
Yeah.
all. I had personally. I
Yeah. Yeah.
had gone when I was a teacher, and my when that when everything transitioned from I guess USDOT
Yeah.
down to the community college system, that was one of the first things I thought would be a great asset for the secondary school system, because there's a lot of moving parts that the school system has to manage in that process. And, I knew that because I had dealt with it in my 20 years in secondary. I knew how cumbersome it was, and actually started a conversation with, young lady that's on our staff now a long time ago about, what if this gets to a point where the college can actually, absorb this training and provide it on a more widespread basis. And, we had some intentions of having it going before we got it started, and just things didn't fall in place exactly right on the time frame I was looking at.
Right.
But we have been able to get it started now, and we worked out an agreement with Jackson and DeKalb County Schools, and have got a partnership with them to train all their bus drivers. And I think it's going to be a good situation for all of us. I think it's going to be a huge benefit to the school systems, because we'll be able to absorb some of that burden of getting all these people through all the processes of it. So I think it's going to be a good situation for all of us.
How did you get that message out to those school systems and to the community to recruit new drivers, driver candidates? How did you get that message out to them? How did you sell it? Because I'm always curious what it takes from a college standpoint to sell this to people who don't know what it is. Because we had to sell y'all had to buy in. So then how are you selling it to your community?
It was about as hard as it was you selling it to me.
No.
They were when I went in and just made the pitch on here's what the community college system can do for you.
Yeah.
Both school systems were a little bit hesitant because it sounded too good to be true. They thought you're going to take this off of our plate for us.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to let us have that really the oversight of who comes through the program. And, we were up front with them and told them, right off the bat, we're not going to recruit your employees. We're going to support you in vetting those individuals that can become bus drivers. And I said, if we can support you in the recruitment, we're going to. And that's what our plan is moving into, later on into this year, is we want to be able to promote bus driver training for these two school systems. And, once we worked through some of the logistics of it, there were lots of questions that were asked, and, rightfully so, because this is a new concept, new process. So we had that open line of communication where they could ask questions, and, I would call and ask you questions to make sure that I was conveying accurate information. And, once it was all said and done, we actually drew up just it was a semi-formal training agreement with each of these school systems.
Yeah.
And we identified what it is we're going to be able to do for them, and they identified how they were going to contribute to the process as well. And we've taken it one step at a time, and I think our first couple of students are currently in training right now. So we're just now getting the wheels on the bus going around and around, so to speak.
I like it. That was a good plug.
I think that's the name of this episode.
Ooh, that's good.
I think it's already been, though.
No. We have time. We haven't done that
Okay.
yet. Yeah.
Right, good.
Okay. Good
Love
job.
it.
No, when it comes to branding, you literally just hit on it about, frequency and consistency. You had to tell them a couple times and then show them, right, how it worked. And so that model has to take place with any program that's rolling out. But obviously, we're talking about skills for success. And so I think word of mouth obviously is that personal touch that people need to be convinced, but ultimately showing employers and being that community provider is where the needle is moved when it comes to these trainings. And so I just wanted to echo the frequency and consistency on that. And good job on the wheels on the bus go around and around. I like it.
Now, Kerry, we need you to sing that.
Oh,
We need you to. That might be our new jingle.
I think we'd probably have a network breakdown if I start singing.
No, that's
never
funny.
know. It could go viral.
You guys do it. It probably would, and that would be amazing. I'm sure your president would love the attention. Northeast going viral internet. Tell us about your work with the K-12 with Skills for Success. You guys have a huge footprint. Your service region is massive, and so many children. to be served. What has it been like for you to get into the schools, sell it there, and then deliver? What's that been like?
It that has probably it's had its challenges too, just with coordination and the logistics of getting those things done, because we're bringing in a few extra people into the equation to try to we're trying to manage, the schedules that we like to keep,
Yeah.
and be considerate of the time frames that the high schools have to work in.
Yep.
You know, coming out of Jackson County, there's a lot of us that have history in Jackson County. And on the other side of the coin, we have some of our workforce development staff that come up through DeKalb County. So we've got people that are going out and they're having conversations with people that they know, and we're actually presenting the opportunities. And in Jackson County, we've done quite a bit of the skid steer excavator training, and I think we're actually in the process of getting a group through that online process now. We've done the same thing over at Collinsville High School, and these schools that are actually they have large populations that maybe don't have access to the tech school due to other things they're involved with at the school.
Right.
Our high school kids now have so many things
True.
on their plate. It's so difficult for them to do everything. So what we're trying to do in workforce development is go in and fill some of these gaps. And we see a lot of students that probably are looking for a skills training pathway for their careers, but maybe they're participating in band, maybe they're in the beta club, maybe they're they're participating in athletics. And when you start looking at all these things that they do, they still only have about 6.5 hours in the school day to do these things. So a lot of them don't get a chance to go to the tech centers and look at those traditional career paths that have been around forever. And we're trying to look at places where we can go and offer up that service, and have students that want to participate. And it's gaining popularity. The heavy equipment class, that's a big hit. What we're also seeing a lot of interest in is the fiber optic splicing. We mentioned that to the high school kids, and they just got fired up and think that's the coolest thing ever. And and we do too. We've had a lot of interest in it, for adult students. But we're looking for more of those inroads to get this training in front of these high school students. The electrician and carpentry helper, the land surveying. We're talking to the ag teachers at these high schools,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing if they can incorporate that in things they already do. If you're familiar with agri-science curriculum, electrician helper, carpentry helper, and even the surveying and forestry, things like that, they're already in the curriculum. So this is another chance for us to bring in just a little bit different perspective on some of these age-old, career path and skills pathways that, a lot of the youngsters are just missing. So, I guess, to go back and answer the initial question, our visibility and presence in front of these students is what's helping us kind of bridge these gaps. And, the secondary administrators, they're excited about it too, because they're looking for new opportunities for their students.
Good answer. I wonder a lot, because I try not to ask a question, then tell a story, then finish the question. You mentioned these age-old programs that have been doing agri-science, agribusiness forever, and now you're merging in skills for success into that curriculum throughout the semester, throughout the year. Have you seen an example of that where somebody did it just with visionary excellence, where they really just landed multiple courses into one traditional program?
Not yet. I think that's something that in time, once the high school gets to see skills for success,
Mm-hmm.
and understand the way the way I'm coming to, I think they're going to see where it's really a value added to some of the things they already do. And when you can attach that industry recognized credential to it, it adds value to that pathway. I think what Skills for Success does that's really positive, in comparison to traditional education, is it's pointing to workforce entry. when we look at a lot of
Yes.
curriculum in high school, it's still largely pointing toward 4-year academic programs.
Yes.
So
Well, that's a great segue. Man, I'm so happy you said that. I'm of the generation that it was everybody's going to 4-year. Didn't matter, like whatever. And I wanted to be a turf grass engineer, and I switched to being a teacher. Interesting story there. But my dad was like, "Well, we've been saving. I got a small scholarship, so I went." But that's all we were ever told about. And now these students have literally the workforce diploma changed, so they can get, or the diploma options changed, so now they have that option for workforce, 2 math, 2 science, and 4 workforce credits. And so it's a good segue because you guys are building, and actually we're filming today. Did you know this? In Collinsville, we're filming the propane tech course that you guys are going to be the pilot for. And so I saw some pictures earlier. I would show them on the screen, but it doesn't go well. But that you have that option. And so tell me more what your thoughts are on that workforce entry. And you're going to have the propane that you guys are going to build, but you have all these other courses. How are you transitioning them from agri-science or whatever in high school through an SFS course into one of your programs? What's that direct connect?
That is, that's still a primary purpose for our outreach is, we want to, we still understand the value of the post-secondary degree. I'm not one that will ever devalue
Right.
continuing education. And, but what we're showing these students now is that, here's where you start. And we lay out the pathway for them, and we show them, how much a degree is worth. And, sometimes a degree, you might make more money with a degree. Nowadays, a lot of times you make more money with your skills.
Yeah.
And, what we try to constantly encourage when we're recruiting students is consider what your options are and try to look down the road just a little piece. And that's where I go back to my story. My story doesn't happen if I hadn't spent 4.5, 5 years 10 years prior to me entering education. If I didn't have that bachelor's degree to start with, I never got the opportunity. So, trying to show the students to look not just today, but look down the road 5, 10 years and try to see as best you can where your opportunities will come. And we try to show, where degrees still are valuable. I'm just like you, Houston. The options in the mid 80s was almost 4-year degree or bust because of all the jobs that were leaving rather than coming in like it is now. So we try to promote the whole story. We try to promote the whole college, and by putting these skills for success programs that are a little bit familiar in front of these students, it gives us another sound bite on how to show them how valuable it can be.
Well, on that note, as you're talking, I am tracking with you, and we talk a lot about the skills gap and providing training and how high school students are now being exposed to careers that were not magnified, throughout the last couple of years for them. And so from your perspective, this has come up a lot recently, more so, I would say, in the last year than the previous years, of connecting the dots for employment. For high school students, they're exploring, they're learning, they're being exposed to new things. But ultimately, we do all of this training. We go, we do the post-secondary education ultimately for that job, right? And although it may not be our role with the community college system to pair someone with a job, but from your perspective, or what strategies are put in place for these high school students to ultimately gain employment, or these students that are going through skills for success, having that option for employment, but also seeing the pathway, how to further their career. So I would love your perspective on that, of connecting that ultimate gap that we have in getting individuals employed.
Well, one thing that we've done, and I think this is very impactful. We actually have some of our local industry partners that are involved in teaching these courses. The heavy equipment training we have in Jackson County, we have one of our partners that is located, very close, within a half mile or so of their tech center. We actually employ him as an adjunct instructor to go there and teach. So his perspective takes it directly to, here's what your skills are going to bring you when you're employed in this field. And he gives them the other side of the coin. We're promoting heavily, the educational piece of it. By us being able to we've had good fortune of having some good industry people that want to step up and assist with this, sometimes for their own purpose, because they're actively recruiting.
Absolutely.
If they see a youngster that's got, just the natural ability to do this right off the bat, they develop close relationships very quickly. So, there's no better way to promote employment than having a group of students see one of their classmates get hired. And, that kind of goes across the board with all of our industry programs, but that's what I think makes it successful. When a company comes in and hires, that says more than probably we ever can on how good the skill set is, because they're seeing it and they're living it.
And then that employer comes back for more, right? Like that becomes their community provider for jobs in the area. That's awesome.
Yes. And word gets out pretty quick.
Well, that's a cool story to tell. Now, I think we're catching some of that in our employer, what's it called? The Skills to Success Impact surveys we sent out.
Yes.
One of those, in the central part of the state, the county sent sent up to 25 equipment operators for training. So they were laborers, employees, and they took them all to one of the colleges for 4 different machines, and they saved a total of 1,200 days of training that they would have had to have done otherwise, on the job training. And so, and those folks, they all got a raise, they all got a promotion from that training. And so we get that upskill that's really important. But more importantly, we get these new folks getting a new job for the first time and starting their careers. Have you seen any particular examples of either one of those where y'all trained to upskill a group? I think you got some stories, or have you seen kids get directly get jobs out of Skills for Success?
We're just starting to see some of that. Last year was our first, our first larger groups of the Skills for Success students. And,
Right.
We did see some of those students that did heavy equipment operator training. They were hired by not only the company that our instructor owns, but there were some other companies in and around Jackson County, or working in Jackson County, that actually picked up a few of these students. So we're seeing that. And one of our goals now moving forward is we're sharing Skills for Success with our industries. And, to start with, we were kind of, had tunnel vision on just pitching this out to these students that we see are very receptive to something new, but we're seeing that we have a lot of students that are taking it pretty seriously, and we're coming on the backside and we're pointing it to industry now. So when industry is seeing what is happening, that helps us to build that base for employment. A lot of the companies that we see, and you all know this very well, since COVID, a company will hire almost anybody that shows up and has a good attitude.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is, Skills for Success, that's a little notch in their belt. If a student finishes that, it shows early that they have some initiative. So, I know that we have kids that have gotten some jobs at some of our manufacturing plants that came through Skills for Success and had something to put on a resume. So, that was something that pointed us to the thought, well, maybe we need to be promoting this a little bit more heavily in a non-traditional environment. And I think that's, moving, throughout the remainder of, 24, 25, I think that we're going to see more industry involvement to come in and recruit out of this group of students that are taking another step to do something productive.
I hope so. We were talking with Chat Valley is about to do their pilot, which is concrete mixer truck operator. And so the course is actually just for the mixer truck, but we talked to some of the companies like, well, can we not put a class B CDL with that? well, sure, that's a no-brainer. I kind of thought we would, but we had not said it out loud. And so I'm thinking about your group, your pilot with a propane tech. Now let's put those students in a Class B CDL and go ahead and get them the hazmat endorsement. So now they're ready-made. They're not a propane tech, like, there's some other training they have to have for the company, but man, they know a lot more than the average Joe, and they can drive the truck, and they've got a federal hazmat certificate. So really makes the student a valuable candidate, or the person, maybe they're switching jobs or they're reentering society, and maybe hazmat might be an issue there, but or propane in general. But you're giving those a lot of different scenarios of life an option in that area, and it would just be fair. Like, your area is not a high socioeconomic area. It's one of those rural parts of the state where people struggle. And so these jobs save them a ton of money and a ton of time getting out of whatever they're in into the next thing that makes their life a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. And you're very right. Those are things that we're continuing to look at. And, back to conversations you and I've had, the more things that we can package, we're currently working on trying to kind of assemble some of these and maybe advertise it as a short certificate, a short non-credit certificate. Some way, just to offer up a package that does just what you said. Okay, here's you a few things you can get some training in, and here's how you can complete it. So I think those are going to be good methods for everybody moving forward. Is that value added in skills training?
Well, you could very easily articulate some of these bundles, so you could make it a short certificate, and then we're not talking tons of hours, but a 3-hour credit. If you bundled electrical helper, carpentry helper, flooring is going to be open soon, plumbing maybe by the end of the year, first of the year. So you got those 4 things. That's a pretty nice bundle, and that's really a lot of training in those 4 courses. So, and then you drop a Class B CDL on it. Now, man, that's 6 hours, of an associate's degree. But you guys have that ability to articulate any of it any way you want to. And everybody could do that differently. It'd be nice if it was a consistent, just so it makes it easier across the state. But you have that option to articulate whatever you want, and there's a path for that. We send you the link right now. But you could do whatever you want and build articulated credit for the Skills for Success courses. And now your students are not just certificate holders; they're college students. And now you've got them, and they're hooked on you. I don't know. It's just something to consider. Let's pivot a little bit to that building. You mentioned earlier that your office has been dismantled and ostensibly you're moving. So tell us what's going on with this massive, exciting development.
Well, it is a really big deal for Northeast. That we're one of the beneficiaries of one of the new workforce skills training centers, and we're actively moving into 55,000 square feet of new instructional space, and for Northeast, it's a really big deal because we're situated. The DeKalb Jackson County line goes right through campus, so we actually have a footprint in both counties, and this is something that is getting visibility that we've not previously had. Dr. Campbell, he's a visionary, and I guess it's been about 15, 16 years ago. He wanted to start adding some technical programs here, and he purchased an old feed and seed store that is situated just across the County Road 47 from the main campus here at Northeast. And he purchased that store, from a family that their business had run as far as going to. They were settling, they were moving away, and he purchased this building and had it renovated into a skills training building that housed an industrial electronics, a welding, and a machine shop. And that whole building was 15,000 square feet. And we had another program on the opposite side of campus, and one on the back, and one on the front. So everything was scattered everywhere. And this building's enabling us to move all of these modern manufacturing programs into one setting. And for the college, it's a really it's going to be a focal point for economic and workforce development in our region. And it's given us, it's given us a buzz around workforce development, and it shows the value of it. So we're looking forward to great things coming from that. I think that, the real benefits are going to be seen on down the road.
Sure.
We'll see 15, 20 years from now, we're going to see a large mass of people that benefited from, the vision that started a long, long time ago. And it's a really exciting time for us here.
I can't imagine when I left Calhoun, they had just maybe just broke ground or were about to on their building, and it looks similar to yours. So I'm excited because that one is probably about 80% complete. So I'm excited for you because I know how it is having those old buildings scattered in 27 different places and trying to give somebody a campus tour is like, well, let's get on a golf cart or an Uber and go across the county to do.
You have to pack a lunch.
Yeah, for real. So that's going to be really nice for you. When do you actually get? When's your first class in that building?
Well, we actually we had one of our industrial electronics classes actually started last Tuesday, I think.
Okay.
They did just a little. I think it was mostly just come see what the new building looks
Sure.
like.
But we had class. Yeah.
Yeah, we had class. We'll call it that. But we're transitioning into it now, and we've actually got I think some of our machine shop students are finally getting to see some of the machinery. We started moving that heavy equipment back in July.
Gosh.
So our machine shop students have been stuck on simulators, for, the first few weeks of class, and
Yeah.
they were chomping at the bits to get in there and see what this machine shop looks like. So we have our ribbon cutting ceremony this week, this Thursday,
right.
actually. And we should be, hopefully by Thursday, we're going to be up and running, and we're going to be able to hear machines running and seeing students actively doing some things.
Good for you. That's growth, man. Because now you have the cream of the crop building, the top of the line facility, and it's going to attract all the students. And they're going to see everything that's coming in that's available to them, and a lot of it granted or funded or scholarship. Bridging some gaps. We're short on time. It always happens. We talk, and it seems like we've been here 5 minutes, and we've been here almost an hour. So in the closing, what does the world need to know about Northeast? What's the next big thing for you guys? What are you working towards?
Well, like I tell every person I to, Northeast has something for everyone in our community. And I think that it's the epitome of community college because we have, from non-credit offerings all the way to academic transfer, skills training, industry training. We have fine arts. We have a really successful arts and theater program. Northeast we've got our first women's softball team that is having a beautiful stadium built right now, slated to be opened in early November. And we just added, in the process of adding soccer. So
Really?
we're starting soccer. We're fixing to start on a soccer field. So that's the diversity of opportunities at Northeast is broad enough now that there's not anyone that wants to learn or do or participate in some type of educational experience. We have something for them here, and that's something that I know Dr. Campbell's led the way on that in his tenure as president to make sure that the college is accessible to everyone. So that's something we're very proud of. And I think the sky's still the limit. We still have a lot of potential that we're working toward very feverishly.
Yep. Well, I've seen what you've done with our product, and asking the right questions, pushing the right envelopes, and finding your way that works best for your community. And that's what, if I say one thing about it, what Kerry Wright has done is he found a way to use what we had that works best for his people in that region. So that's really impressive, and we appreciate that. We honor that. And we're thankful just for the time today to hear your story and see what's coming. And, Kailah's always bringing folks back, inviting them back, in 6 months or a year and see what that looks like for you, what's growth, what's new, and just to take measure of all the awesome things happening up there. So we appreciate your time, Kerry. I know you're a very busy man.
Well, I thank you for having me on the show. This has been fun. I always love to tell the story of Northeast
Yeah.
and look for the next person that comes by looking for an opportunity.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you. Kailah?
All right. Thanks for joining us on another episode of Innovation Unplugged. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on all social media platforms. Have a great day.